let's move into off-season mode. This is probably, you and I know for sure, this ends up turning into some of the most exciting parts of the season. Yes, we have the games that come up. I'm a Cowboys fan, so obviously we lost in the wild card to the Packers. So I've been in the free agency and the draft stuff and the film of that for a little while now. This is where it starts officially, looking into the free agents, assessing certain team needs. First thing we're going to do is I want to look at 14 teams and assess their quarterback situations, look at them, whether it's restructuring, extending, getting somebody new, trading for somebody. I want to do that right now. Starting off with probably one of the worst of the bunch, and kind of one of the more obvious ones. Start off with the Bears. So a couple of candidates for this one. Caleb Williams is going to be the number one guy, right? I think it's it's all but a foregone conclusion that Caleb Williams will be a Bear. He will be the first overall pick. But anything could happen on draft night, and I don't want to rule out Drake May possibly getting his name in that conversation. But from what I hear is it's Caleb at the top, and then there's discourse between 2 and 3, which is Drake May, Jaden Daniels, that those two are closer together than 1 and 2. That's what I hear. And then the other name that pops up is the potential of Justin Fields staying. That's probably the least likely. I just don't see it. With the Bears in their quarterback situation, is Caleb going to take his first snap as a Bear? Is that who's taking this first snap of the season under center for them?
Caleb is definitely the number one pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. What are you gonna do? You everybody in that front office gets fired if you trade away Caleb Williams and you run back Justin Fields. Like, are we forgetting about the fact that this dude threw like 5 touchdowns down the stretch? He can't play from the pocket. Like I'm surprised at the discourse that's even surrounding this. Like, matter of fact, I wouldn't even say I would. I have significant draft capital investment. Essentially, what I mean by that is I've put a significant chunk of money into the top 4 picks in wagers and how this is going to go. And luckily for me, it doesn't change if the team changes. It's just the first 4 spots in order.
Mm-hmm.
And could you imagine being a Chicago Bears fan? You've watched Justin Fields. Your team has gone nowhere. Your defense is ready to go.
Absolutely.
You just need somebody that can play football the right way and keep your offense on the field for sustained drives. And realistically, what do the Bears have to average next year? 20, 22 points, 19 points to be really good and win 9 or 10 games?
Yeah.
Just go get the guy. Frankly, go get either of them. I would take either of them over Justin Fields.
Yeah. I mean, I would too. I think oh gosh, I'm going to bring it up now. I was going to save this for, and I'm going to bring it up when we do quarterback rankings eventually. I think that the word generational prospect is so overused now. I feel like I've heard the word generational prospect the past couple of years, whether it's quarterbacks, wide receivers, that sort of thing. I think it's overblown a little bit. I don't know if Caleb's a generational guy. Does he have generational tools? Sure, he does. The athleticism, the arm, the ball placement is all really good. Playing in structure is going to be his biggest weakness. I'm sure he can do it, but that's up for the future to decide. I really like Drake May. I'm a big Drake May guy. I think he's probably one of the most pro-ready guys right now to come out and start day one. I'm not shying off of the whole, well, it's a UNC quarterback coming out and he wears number 10, and I'm really nervous about it. He has a pro-style frame and he kind of looks like Mitch Trubisky, and it's not swaying me off of it. I don't really care. You look at the tape and you look at what he could do. It's incredible. I'm a big Drake May guy. To me, again, the consensus is it feels like Caleb is at the top and 2 and 3 are being debated heavily. For me, I think 1 and 2 are a lot closer for me personally than other people. But again, my takes go from left field. And if you stick around for the eventual quarterback rankings for the draft in the next couple of weeks, probably after free agency, you're gonna see some of my wild takes. Moving on to the Commanders, 3 potential guys here. name we already brought up, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and then the potential of Sam Howell coming back and starting. I don't see this happening again. That's the least likely. But again, number 2 pick, Drake May is the most likely guy here, right?
Drake May is the most likely guy at the number 2 pick. I still have a little bit of money on Caleb Williams being the starting quarterback for the Commanders next year, just because the jump from 2 to 1 is not as hard as you might think it'd be with what they can offer the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe the draft order will be Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2, because maybe the Bears have done their research. Maybe Drake May is their quarterback of the future. You know, this happens. This happens all the time. Like Baker Mayfield came out of nowhere. He came
Yeah.
out of absolutely nowhere, and it didn't work out in Cleveland. But the thought process was right. Right. He's been a
Yeah.
good pro. So if they think it's Drake May, you don't just take Drake May with the first pick. You call the Commanders and you say, "Hey, listen, um, the Broncos are offering us everything to move up to number 1. Do
Right.
you Are you interested in hopping?" You know, the 49ers and the Bears did it a couple years ago where they thought the 49ers were going to take Trubisky and the Bears moved up and the 49ers dropped one spot and got like 4 picks for it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I do think it's Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2, but I'm not locked into it being Bears Commanders in that order. I wouldn't be surprised, you know. I just think that the Bears very important offseason for them because the defense is ready to go to the next level and they have to make sure they get the right guy.
And some
And I
people
agree.
forget it's about that pick becoming available. Some people forget that last year the Panthers were moving up to the 2nd pick. That was supposed to be the plan, and that was the big thing. And all of a sudden, the first overall pick came available, and they offered a little bit more. And they ended up getting the quarterback that they wanted. Again, it's about that pick becoming available, and it did. So if it becomes available, I'm sure there's going to be quite a few teams calling.
And to go back to the Drake May thing, the UNC thing, I'm so sick. Everybody can put this thing to rest. The Ohio State quarterback thing, right? We can put it to the rest. The transfer portal has completely eliminated these. That's an Alabama football team right there. No, it's not. Like everybody's going
Yeah,
everywhere. Coaches are going everywhere. There's never been more movement in college football. Like there's no
yeah,
more. Yep, that's a defensive tackle from Georgia right there. No, that defensive tackle might go to Florida now because they're going to pay him more. Oh, that's a linebacker from Clemson. Nah, he's at USC now.
yeah,
Idaho, Boise just got a 5-star recruit. Like it's everywhere. So
yep,
thinking like, oh, he's UNC, we can't take him because of this and who this guy came out 10 years ago. That stuff is dying. It doesn't exist anymore. The best players play, and stop letting preconceived biases stop you from realizing who the best players coming out of college are every year just because of where they went to school or what that school has produced in the past 15 years. The landscape is changing.
yeah. Moving on to the Patriots, 2 names come up. Jaden Daniels is the favorite at the 3rd pick right now, and then another name that I've attached here is Kirk Cousins. Do you see anyone else as a potential suitor?
I think it's Jaden.
You think it's Jaden locked in? That's the guy.
Yeah, that's what I put the money on. I just think that the Patriots have done something for a really long time the same way. They try to recreate it with Mac Jones. They got a new head coach over there. They're gonna have
Yeah,
a new quarterback over there. And they got to get some weapons. They got to surround that dude with weapons. But he's quick. He's athletic. I know he looks a little goofy, but there's no style points. There's no statistics for style points. And I just think if you can run an offense where, you know, I thought the Patriots looking at him should have taken a look at Greg Roman for offensive coordinator because you cut the field in half. It's not 4 or 5 progressions. It's 1-2 release, you know, one
yeah,
two safety valve, and try to be successful. The thing about it is he taking the Patriots back to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But I mean, look at the landscape in the AFC and the NFC. Like those kingpins are going to be on top for a while. Like we just need to win. We just need to win games and get to the playoffs. That's considered successful for right now for the Patriots.
yeah. And if you look at their own division, obviously the Buffalo Bills should be good for the foreseeable future, just mainly based on Josh Allen being under center. And if they just continue to build around him, hopefully, you know, they'll be in that contention year after year. I think the Jets are a short-term contender with Aaron Rodgers, and if they find a replacement eventually, then sure. But again, it's a short-term thing. And then you look at the other team there too, in the Dolphins, and they're contenders, and they're young and they're talented, and they're looking like they're going to be contenders for the long haul as well. Two young edge rushers, and you have, excuse me, your quarterback that we'll get around to, but you're probably going to lock up this offseason. You have a young, speedy wide receiver. Obviously, you have Tyreek Hill on the other side. The division is good, so you have to build for the long haul. That's kind of what you're looking at. You're looking at Jaden to build off of him, let him develop, and you're looking to build weapons, not in year one, but year 1, 2, 3, and then we'll see where we're at. I think that's what the Patriots are going to be looking at. Is not so good in the immediate future, but slow progression over time is what they're hoping. Now, if they don't mess up and they don't go with unfortunately, what the trend is in the NFL, it seems to be is hire a head coach and then fire him as fast as possible. I don't think that's going to happen with Gerard Mayo because he's been groomed for this position for so long and he's fit for the position and they want him in this position. So I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I think there's a plan here and I think it could be successful. I'm not a big believer in Jaden Daniels. If they can help him develop, then obviously he has the tools to do it.
Yeah, and the thing is about it is just I like Marvin Harrison, I like Neighbors, I like Rome, but they're not
Yeah.
changing anything for Mac Jones. And I don't
No.
you can't take a tackle here. Like I don't think you can take Joe Alt. And there's really
Yeah.
not even an edge rusher that's top 10. I mean, I've seen Dallas Turner as high as 8 or 9, but realistically, he's nice, but he's not top 5 material, not even close. So there's
Yeah.
really, unless you're going to trade back, which is never off the table, unless you're going to trade back and pick up a JJ McCarthy or something like that. But even then, who's given up all the draft capital to move up to 3? Like the Bears took
Yeah.
Justin Fields at their spot. They might have moved a little bit, but they didn't trade up to take Justin Fields. So you don't get as much flack for that. Even the Patriots took Mac Jones at their draft pick. So you don't get as much flack for that because that's where you were at. The Steelers, they took Kenny Pickett at number 22 or 23. That was their draft pick. You're moving up to number 3 for Jaden. That's super risky. So I just think it's the pick. It sucks that they couldn't have lost one more game or two to get to the number 2 pick, but
Yeah.
that's what happens when you have a generational head coach that's fighting for wins. So
Yeah, I think when you're talking about the teams that are most likely to move up, you have to talk about the Falcons, the Broncos, the Vikings, and even potentially the Raiders are in that conversation as well. So I think those teams you could look towards for a potential trade up, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. I think all those people are in contention for it.
yeah, but
And good.
those 3 teams are also sitting right in the place where you can stay put. You don't have to give up any draft capital, and you can take JJ McCarthy at
Yeah, sure. It's
11, 12, or 13. So you
if
have
you
to
want to give
really
up the
love
capital,
Jaden.
yeah, yeah, you got to give up the capital if you really like your guy. That's kind of what it comes down to. And moving on to one of those teams, the Broncos. I have a handful of names here. This one's the most unlikely, in my opinion, which is Russell Wilson coming back after what happened at the end of the year. Probably not going to happen. JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bo Nix from the draft, and then one free agent guy, Baker Mayfield, is a name that pops up. I don't know if you saw Sean Payton getting interviewed on the during the Super Bowl stuff, and he was like, I'm looking around to see if Baker's available. So I think those 5 names are the most likely candidates. Do you think they're going to turn towards the draft or they're going to look to sign someone?
I do. I think it's JJ for right now.
Yeah.
That's where I have him slotted. I kind of think that based off of the landscape that JJ goes in the first, and I think that's where he might go, and then everyone else falls out of the first.
Yeah.
But I just think that Sean Payton, when you sign the contract that he signed, he needs to instill his program going forward. And that doesn't happen with Baker. It doesn't happen with Kirk Cousins, because then in two
Right.
years, you're right back in the same place. Like,
Yep.
get the young guy.
You're not ready to
And
win now.
no, what? So, yeah, Kirk makes absolutely zero sense for that. I think it's quarterback round 1 for them. And maybe you sign a bridge guy or whatever.
Yeah, and
Maybe you
those
bring in a Ryan Tannehill or somebody that can compete, and you
yeah,
just go from there.
those guys are out there, for the just in case type situation. Gardner Minshew played well for the Colts this season, and he's going to be a free agent, and he's going to be out there. So I know there's a couple other guys. You mentioned Ryan Tannehill, Gardner Minshew. I know there's a couple other vets out there who are definitely going to be signing somewhere. I can definitely see them grabbing one of those guys as a contingency plan or a developmental to help JJ develop.
Yeah, and you don't even have to bring in somebody with the idea that they're going to compete to be the number one. Just somebody that knows what's going on, a Sam Darnold, a Marcus Mariota, a Drew
Yeah,
Lock, Jacoby Brissett. There's a lot of those guys that are going to be free agents this year, and
yeah,
to back up. I mean, let's be honest. JJ McCarthy is not Jaden Daniels. Like, he played at Michigan. He's been prepared for this. He's been around for a couple of years. This isn't a one hit wonder. He's if his talent is going to translate, he's one of the quarterbacks that can have immediate success in the NFL,
yeah,
especially with a coach like Sean Payton. Matter of fact, I mean that's one of my favorite spots for one of these quarterbacks to land is with Sean Payton, because if he can't make it happen, if Nick Mullins can have the passing record through the first 15 games of a season because he was with Kyle Shanahan, then, JJ McCarthy can be successful with Sean Payton.
yeah, for sure. Moving on to the Vikings, uh, quarterback that is, potentially to return. Kirk Cousins is on the list. Baker is on the list. And then you have Michael Penix and Bo Nix. You're going to see a lot of repeat names for most of these, the next upcoming for the draft, at least. So Bo Nix is the other guy that I have here. Again, Michael Penix as well. So where do you see the Vikings really turning? Because it feels like the Vikings are, I think they're 13th is their position in the draft. It doesn't feel like 13. Their future feels like top 6 in terms of picks coming up. I don't think Kirk is going back. Um, I don't really think Baker's really leaving Tampa. And are you going to take the shot on Nix and Penix? That's where you kind of shrug your shoulders. Or are you just going to go full trust the process, tank your next season and see what's available, next year's draft. So, where do you see the Vikings quarterback situation next season?
They're going to be on a rental. They're going to be on a bridge player. I think in the draft here they go edge or they go corner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that can be a long-term piece for them. And the thing is you're going to be shitty next year. So you're going to have an even higher pick. So
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
force Penix at 13. Don't force Bo Nix at 13. Take,
Do you
I
take
don't know,
Nix? You take Nix or Penix if they fall to the second to the Vikings, or do you still try to BPA for them?
if Penix or Nix is sitting there, then that's probably BPA.
Mm. Yeah, I think for that 13th overall pick, I think corners probably the move. I think that's where you're going to see a big run on corners starting there at 13th, and in those teens and in the early 20s, you're going to see corners fly off the board.
I mean, if Arnold is sitting there, that's a no doubter.
Yeah,
Between
I've seen
wide
him go as high as 5, dude.
corner and offensive tackle, you have like 20 of the 20 of the first round picks are all going to be a corner, wide receiver, or tackle. And then if you add in the quarterbacks, if the quarterbacks go, then that's it. You got two
Yep,
edge rushers and maybe a
yep.
safety that
And,
go in the first round.
and one or two interior defensive linemen who have consideration.
So
That's
I
kind
mean
of it.
the corners are all just crazy. The tackles are all just crazy. There's a ton of tackle talent. Hopefully, a couple of them drop to 31. And yeah, it's just this isn't the this. I would love one of those quarterbacks in the second round. I hate it all in the first round because they're
Hmm.
not going to have enough talent next year to why take a quarterback there and look like the Panthers this year? Doesn't do you any good.
Yeah, I don't think nobody's going up. Nobody's going up for one of those quarterbacks, not in the first round, unless they start dropping to mid second, late second. Then people want to try to get back into the second. Yeah, I could see that, but nobody's trading up for those guys.
And chances are one of them is going to be wildly successful,
Yeah,
Penix or um, Bo
Knicks.
or whoever it's going to be. One of them is probably going to be really good, but to
Yeah,
just to take the pick there at 12 or 13, again, maybe the Broncos go somewhere else and JJ's there. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I feel like the Broncos take a quarterback.
Yeah. Moving on, they have 2 quarterbacks on roster, Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy Garoppolo, Niners legend. The other guys who are in consideration for the starting quarterback next year, again, talking about all of the draft guys, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and then I threw in Jaden Daniels because Raiders are a big team to potentially move up and grab a guy like that. I didn't put any free agent guys in here. I think they're reeling too much from signing Jimmy G. You don't want to sign another free agent quarterback just to get burned by him. You don't want to do it. I'm not saying that Cousins or Mayfield is going to do that, but if it happens again, you're getting looked at already, side-eyed already, but you're getting fully eyebrows raised. So next year, who's under center for the Raiders?
Aiden.
You think Aiden is?
Yeah. They're gonna run that back. They can add to the defensive side of the ball. And the thing is what was his name? The head coach. How did I blank on the one they fired?
Oh,
Bill Belichick's offensive coordinator. I could give you all the details about him. He wanted to be the Colts head coach, and he backed out.
Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels, thank God.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I gave you the guy's whole bio. I can't remember his name. Josh McDaniels was so terrible that I think that you can run it back. I think you have an open competition in camp between Jimmy and Aiden. Aiden probably wins, and then you got a good backup.
Yeah.
And you add to the defensive side of the ball in the draft, I think, corner or something like that there.
Yeah. I think Antonio Pierce is going to want to see what he has at his disposal for an entire season. I think that's what the season is going to come down to. If the Raiders have any relative amount of success under Antonio Pierce, he's going to end up staying. But if that quarterback play isn't there, they're going to end up, I think, next year definitely consider to try to move up for quarterback if there is a quarterback to move up for. That's what it comes into play.
Plus, who are you really signing? Who are you bringing in that's going to compete in that division next year? I mean, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Justin Herbert, you have whatever Sean Payton's going to manufacture. It sucks, but as it sits, you guys are probably going to be 4th in the division. Add some defensive talent or some tackle talent. There's a lot of talent at those positions in this draft. And the Raiders and the Vikings could be a top 5 team next year. I'm sorry, bottom 5 team, but top 5 in the draft.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Now, watch. They're going to take a guy like TJ Tampa, the corner, just because he has all the measurables and he's super quick and he's really big. And they're going to take him in the first round.
The Raiders are going to come up to the thing and they're going to say, with our pick, we select Quinn Ewers. And I know he's not coming out this year. We're just selecting him next year. So
we're
dibs
for Quinn Ewers. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Arch Manning.
Last one. Actually, there's 2 more for not any definite. No, you know what? We'll go in order. Screw it. This next one is not who's going to be under center. We know who's going to be under center. It's what does the extension look like? And it's the Cowboys, and it's re-signing Dak. What does this extension look like for the Cowboys? Numbers are $60 million a year. Are we actually going to reach that $60 million a year conclusion? And how many years are we talking? Dak's what, 30, 31?
That's a 3-year, $180 million contract for Dak. They're absolutely crazy if they go 4-2-40. Maybe they go 4-2-20. I hate that. I absolutely hate that. 3 years is where he's
Dak
getting extended no matter what because of the cap hit. It's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, he has to. The thing is Dak got signed to a 4-year instead of longer because he wanted to specifically sign a contract when he hit 30. That was like the whole thing. That was why when we initially started the contract negotiations a year before he actually signed, we couldn't come to the agreement because we were a whole year ahead of where he wanted to be. And he wanted more guarantees with 1 less year. And we ended up giving that to him, obviously. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him want to go even a year less, 3 year. I think I think he signs a 4. I think he signs a 4 with big guarantees in there. I think that's where Dak sits is again that 60 million a year hit is what he's going to range around. And um, the cap space situation isn't as good as people think it is in terms of not sure how many people are aware of it, but the projected cap space was less than what it was projected at. So some teams budgeted for that for their future, and now they're going to get less than they thought it was. Disappointing. It sucks because of how much the players are actually making and how much they take up on the cap space. We're going to hit that limit soon, right? I mean, we have to. And I feel like we keep saying that, but for quarterbacks and in these positions, we have to be hitting that limit soon, right? Of per year, how much percentage wise they're taking up of the cap space. I get it. They're the most important position on the team, but are we reaching that limit here pretty soon? 60 million a year is crazy, but are we going to continue to go up? Are we going to see a 70, 75 here in the next 3-4 years?
I mean, the NFL made $22 billion this year, so they can make the salary cap whatever they want. It just means the owners get less money. So,
Yeah.
you're talking a 4-year extension, or are you talking about next year is year one and then three more years? Because I was saying
3-year extension.
okay, that's I'm with you on that as well. So
Yeah.
you extend him, you convert his cap next year to all bonus money, so that 59.5 comes down to like 30. He
Yep.
plays next year, then he has 3 more years after that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with that.
I think the next conversation is the more interesting one because of the limited amount of success that he's had because he's only had 1 year of opportunity. The Packers and locking up Jordan Love. What is his contract projection look like for you right now? How many years per year? Because it looks like he's somewhere around the 42 and a half, 45, 47 million a year range. Is that where he sits, or is he more? Is he less? And how many years on that?
Yeah, so he to me is a candidate for like a 4-year 185. He plays next year and then he has 4 more years on his contract, and they dump a bunch of signing bonus into his lap next year. So he
Hmm.
still has a low cap hit because of the previous extension. Then he has 4 more years. I think I think they'd like to actually do a 3, but he has to get a 4. I think
Yeah,
because if you do a 3 and he explodes, then you're really kind of in trouble.
absolutely. And another one, the Lions. Jared Goff is going to be under center, but the question is, how much longer are we going to see Jared Goff in that position? In
For
a
the
Lions
Lions,
uniform, under center. How much longer are we going to see that? Are we talking a Lion for life type situation, or the Lions going to eventually look somewhere else? If Jared Goff, let's say, performs at this level next couple of years,
well,
are
shit,
they
if you're
looking?
asking me, I would tell you he's in line for an extension. But if you ask Dan Campbell, he thinks they're never going back to the playoffs. So I'm not 100% sure which way to go with that.
Yeah,
Um, we did a segment a couple podcasts ago where I was kind of down on Jared Goff, and that was obviously before he led him to the playoffs and led him to the NFC Championship game. And
right.
I honestly thought he was a little older than he was. But the Jared Goff should have been in the Super Bowl if his wide receivers could have caught the ball. So I
Yeah,
think that now that would have been that defense would have put the clamps on them. Obviously, they don't have the talent that the Niners did, and they put the clamps on us. So, but
yeah,
I just think that how do you upgrade off over Jared Goff until he declines? At the level he's playing right now, you can't upgrade over him. He's playing
yeah.
at a really high level. It sucks that he's a statue, but that just is what it is. He doesn't move around very well. So I think that, yeah, I mean, until he hits a significant decline, I mean, people are talking about giving Baker Mayfield like a 3-year 180. Like, you want Baker Mayfield for 3 years 180, or you just want to keep rolling with Jared Goff? I'll roll with Jared Goff because if Jared Goff could move, he's probably a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. I don't have Baker at 3-year 180. That's crazy. That's it's pretty insane. What do you? I forgot he was on the roster. You extend Goff. Let's say he plays for 2 more years, right? What do you think about continuing and start pushing really hard for the development of a guy like Hendon Hooker, who's on the roster.
Isn't Hendon Hooker like 37 already?
That's what it feels like. Hendon Hooker is 26.
Yeah. You're gonna start developing him at 29.
Yeah. So,
What happened to the quarterback class last year? What happened to the dude for the Rams? Is he still in rehab?
if last I heard, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. I don't know if he still is in there, but yeah. Let's see. Good old Google. Let's see what it says.
GTS, Google that shit, baby. Just for the viewers, your boy Jacob over here, he tried to get me to hop on the podcast after the Super Bowl. He's like, "Hey, if you want to get any of that raw emotion out, we can hop on the podcast." And I was like, "Nah, I'm not hopping on nothing right now. I'm just gonna go play Madden." So I played Madden and I exercised my Super Bowl frustrations with playing our franchise league with his dad, and I smashed his dad in the Super Bowl. So in my household, the 49ers are Super Bowl champions. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, it looks like nothing official, but the rumors are is he's as someone put it, an alcohol enthusiast.
Can you imagine going to rehab for like 6 months over alcohol?
Yeah, man. Falcons. Where are we going with the Falcons? Are we going Desmond Ritter? Justin Fields is a big trade candidate. Moving up for Jaden Daniels. Who's under center for the Falcons? Are they just going to suck again for another year, or they're going to go for a free agent, or they're trading for somebody?
Now they got to go get Baker. They got to go get Kirk Cousins because the Falcons think that they have Super Bowl level offensive talent. That's what the Falcons think. They think that Bijan and Kyle Pitts and Drake London, they think they have Super Bowl offensive talent. So they got to go get somebody. You can't run it back with a rookie because there's no guarantees that Bo Nix or Michael Penix or whatever is going to be any better than Ritter or the backup that they had this year, which we stumbled over last
Taylor
podcast.
Heineke. Yeah.
Heineke!
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's how relevant he is. And I don't really like anybody else that's out there. I don't think there's too many trade candidates. I don't think that Justin Fields helps you unless you're going to go full blown read option with him and Bijan and their running backs, which, hey, give me Bijan and Justin Fields and Christian McCaffrey and Debo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan, and maybe we can make something out of it, an offensive mastermind. But that's not really that's not really the route they went over there in Atlanta, offensive mastermind. So I think, honestly, I love Kirk Cousins there. I honestly do. And you could pay him whatever, give him a 3-year whatever, a 2-year whatever. All your guys are young. They're all under contract. Give him a 3-year to the moon, and hopefully he's ready but it's Kirk Cousins. I mean, the thing is even if he's not ready till week 2 or week 3, he'll be fine. He doesn't need a full training camp. He's done this before. So
yeah, and if you look at, again, it's the offensive talent, Bijan, and you have Drake London, Kyle Pitts. You go out and get another offensive weapon, wide receiver, and you're looking pretty good. That offensive line is really good at this point. They've dumped money into it in draft capital, and it's performed well. So Kirk going to that place and being protected and having the weapons around him, it is probably ideal for him. Now it's just about, performing and how good are those presumed weapons. I mean, you'd get answers real quick if those guys are actually worth anything. Is Drake London as good as he's supposed to be? Is Kyle Pitts as good as he's supposed to be? Bijan, I mean, and then you can't say, oh, what's the offensive play calling, because, got rid of that, So.
I'm a big believer in the Sam Darnold redemption tour next year. So anytime something like this pops up, my mind automatically goes to him, especially with all that talent. But that type of player, the Kirk Cousins. I don't want to see Ryan Tannehill. I don't want to see all those guys are backups. So Kirk Cousins, Baker, those are tier 1 and tier 2 free agency quarterbacks next year, and I think they have to go get a legit solid guy. There's no one you can trade for. I don't want you to trade for Kenny Pickett or Daniel Jones or whatever the case may be. I mean, the Dolphins aren't putting Tua on the block, so there's not a significant upgrade over a Kirk Cousins or a Baker Mayfield. And so with all your young pieces under contract, go pay them whatever. You could give Kirk Cousins 3 years, $200 million. It's not going to matter. Not that you would do that, but it's not going to matter because nobody important needs to be signed until that contract runs out.
Yeah. moving on to the Dolphins. They're looking to lock up Tua this offseason, and they're in contract negotiations at this point. I think the negotiations are going to be tough because initially when I was looking at it, the contract didn't look that crazy. It looked pretty relative. Now, as more reports are coming out, it's almost sounding like he's looking to almost top Joe Burrow's contract, which, a reminder, 5 years, $275 million with a $40 million signing bonus, average salary of $55 million a year, and $146.5 million guaranteed at signing.
I tell you what, Cowboys fans better hope they sign Dak before Tua signs.
Yeah, that's crazy. If Tua's getting Joe Burrow money, Dak's gonna end up getting that plus more. So
Listen, if Tua, you heard it here first, clip this. If Tua gets Joe Burrow money, then Dak is getting Shohei Otani money. That's what Dak's gonna want, because
yeah,
that's a stupid amount of money for Tua.
that's
And
crazy. I was on board with it a couple weeks ago when we talked about it, dude. I was like, yeah, dude, of course you got to lock him up. You know, it was on our small little carousel for news. But then as more reports are coming out now in the last couple of days, it's like, God damn, bro, that's a lot of money for you. I mean, you're injury prone. You get knocked out like crazy. You don't know what day it is half the time because of those
how do
head
you give
injuries.
him 5 years? I just cannot. I cannot see that. Like a
Yeah.
3 year extension after next year seems risky. And you know, if they go three again, the I don't know why I saw this about Baker Mayfield, but the 3 year 180, you know, and you dump a signing bonus in his lap, so you got him for the next 4 years. I honestly, I think at the problem is the amount of money these contracts are getting to with the quarterbacks. You have to be so damn sure. And are we so damn sure about Tua?
I don't even like drafting quarterbacks who only have one full year of success, like a Jaden Daniels. I damn well don't want to sign a quarterback who only has one full year of success, like a Tua. You know, if you go and you take his initial years of not so successful and then being injury prone for like 2 full years almost, it feels like, on and off, and now 1 full year of being successful, but now you have all of this offensive talent around you when you are successful, between a really good offensive line with the only reason it wasn't that good down the stretch is because of injuries, and then you have two really good, almost, I mean, Jalen Waddle's an almost all pro caliber wide receiver. He could
And
get
what
to
does
that
he
point
look
easily.
like without Tyreek Hill? That would be my concern with a 5 year contract. Tyreek
And
Hill's going to
Tyreek Hill's
retire,
aging. Yeah.
and you don't just trade. I mean, that's so rare that the Chiefs were put in that position. And listen, they
Yeah.
traded that fool and they won 2 Super Bowls. So they picked
Yep.
Chris Jones. They made the right decision. But you don't just,
Absolutely.
Tyreek Hill just doesn't get traded. Like Tyreek Hill retires, and then the Dolphins go into Madden and they trade everything they have for CeeDee Lamb and they go to the Super Bowl. Sure, but that's in the video game, not in real life. Like you can't just get
Yeah.
that guy. What does Tua look like without Tyreek Hill? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Moving on to the Bucks, I have two names here. I have Baker and I have Kirk Cousins. I have two guys who are ready to come in and win now. I don't think Baker is leaving the Bucks. What I have here, and I've got this from a couple different websites, but the most consensus that I've seen is like 3 year, 82.5 million is what I'm seeing for Baker
3 years, 82 million.
from a couple
Oh,
of
I
websites.
I would sign that all day of the week for Baker.
Yeah. So that's what I'm seeing. And then, like, if we're looking at Kirk, the two things I'm seeing is 2 years, 80 million, or 2 years, 90 million are the two. $55 million in guaranteed money for Kirk, $33 million in guaranteed money to Baker. So
Yeah,
that's what
I
I'm
think
seeing on
that
those two.
I think that's a good contract for Kirk, and I think that's a good contract for the team. Like any
Yeah.
team that can get him at that number is good. I don't like 3 years for Kirk. Um, Honestly, the Baker Mayfield re-signing, I'm not a massive Baker believer. And if the Buccaneers lose Mike Evans in the offseason, I'm not really sure what they're doing to replace that production. Keon Coleman in the draft right there is about right, maybe, but he ain't Mike Evans. So
The only thing that you can compare Keon Coleman with Mike Evans is contested catch ability. That's it. Keon Coleman's really good at the contested catch, but his separation and long speed, it can't be compared to Mike. That's the problem with Keon Coleman. He looks really good, and you start diving into the numbers, and he's one of the worst separation wide receivers in the country. and it starts to become eyebrow raising, which is one of the big reasons I dropped him down on my board initially 4 when I was going through the receivers down to 8. Again, still top 10 for me, but yeah, not comparable. I think my prediction is if you're signing Baker or you're signing Mike Evans, you're signing both.
Okay.
That's my prediction. And you lose Antoine Winfield.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're sacrificing. You can't choose all 3 guys unless you do magician stuff and you move your roster around, you extend guys, you cut guys, which happens. It happens every single year in the NFL. Once we start talking about the 2 divisions coming up, we're gonna see, they're negative $27 million in cap space, and their biggest free agent target is this person. This is how much money they're supposed to make, and I could see it already if someone comments, how are they supposed to make that money? How are they supposed to sign those guys? Well, they do stuff every year to sign guys. How do you think the Saints somehow, some way, they're negative every year, but they end up breaking even somehow? It happens. And then we have 2 teams left. The Giants. You got Daniel Jones.
Yeah, the Giants are fucked. That's all I got for them.
Trade up for Jaden Daniels, or you're waiting for Bo Nix, Michael Penix, or you're taking a JJ McCarthy.
Well, what are you going to do? You already paid Daniel Jones.
Yeah, you paid him, but there's an out for his contract after this year. So after this year, they can cut him and be completely free from it and be okay. So that's kind of how they structured it, which I think is really smart at this point. Now, if Daniel Jones goes in there next year and he lights it up again, like when he got the contract, then it's not that bad. It's
what
really
do you
not
do?
horrible.
What do you do if you draft the quarterback here and then he plays well?
Yeah, I don't think you can
tell you, that's a good problem to have. I would say no, that's a colossal waste of resources.
Yeah, I think the Giants have to go. I think the Giants either go tackle or they go wide receiver in the draft. I think that's where they go.
And they have to do something because the Commanders are making moves. They've put together a hell of a coaching staff, stealing every single coach from the 49ers that we have. I think we got Kyle Shanahan and his little cousin, and that's who's left on our coaching staff right now. And they got a really good GM, and they got a top 2 pick.
Ton of cap space.
And you got to figure it out because the Cowboys are the Cowboys. They're settled at the top. The Eagles, I think, are in for regression. But when you have the talent that they have, I mean, the team looks talented on paper. They should be okay. The Giants, unless you're just going to pack it up for the next couple of years, but NFL teams don't really do that. There's not, they don't turn into the 76ers. So I don't know.
Especially if you look at the success story for the Texans, it's the reload, not the rebuild at this point. Teams are going to be looking more and more to reload their rosters instead of rebuilding their rosters. Again, the Texans being a great example of that. So, like you said,
Daniel Jones. I just don't like looking at his stupid face on TV. That's really the only problem with him.
You just get Eli Manning part 2, man. That's it.
But yeah, the Texans, I think that's gonna change a lot of people's thinking in the lead up to these things. It's just like, oh hey man, they got a couple picks and now all of a sudden they're a playoff team. We'll see how the sophomore slump hits CJ Stroud, but
hey, you know what? And if it makes the draft more exciting when people want to move pieces around, by all means do it. Because when I'm sitting here watching the draft, which we're gonna live stream the draft, okay? You just can't show it, or you're gonna get our reactions and our analysis from it. When I see the draft and I see the Texans moving up to 3, or I see another team moving up, that's exciting. I just want my team to take a reasonable player, not named Amazi Smith. Anybody else, essentially. That's all I want. Outside of that, make the draft as exciting as possible.
Well, one of the greatest things that the NFL's done in recent years, shout out to the Los Angeles Rams, is they made the trade deadline interesting. The trade deadline was never interesting for the NFL for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, Sean McVay hired Jonah Hill, and they went full money ball on how the draft picks aren't as important as talent. And they did all this stuff, and then they won a Super Bowl, and then their team was trash, but it doesn't matter because they won a Super Bowl. And now every year the 49ers are trading for Christian McCaffrey and Chase Young and all these other players. And the trade deadline is hella exciting. So yes, let's make the draft more exciting, I'm super there. And then we can laugh at Jacob when the Cowboys
Shut up.
draft interior offensive lineman.
You know what? Yeah, we will draft interior offensive linemen. Just hopefully not in the first round this time. And then I only got one more team, and it's the Steelers. Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky got cut. And then you have Bo Nix. And then Kirk Cousins is actually one I literally just added on today before we got on, because there is reports with his little circle that's around him talking about that it is a real chance and possibility that he goes to the Steelers and he likes the situation. So I think those 4 guys are there. What do
I
you
think
think?
that's stupid for him for the weather.
Yeah.
I like the talent, although the talent's kind of weird. Pickens is he doesn't like to block. They got an issue over there with their wide receivers and not wanting to do their full job. And obviously they have a gorgeous tight end, and they got a couple of really good. Warren's a stud, and Najee he's a good player. I don't think he's a first round pick talent, but
Right.
he's a good player, and I like the way they run the football with power. But Kirk in the rain and Kirk in the snow and all that other stuff that you get out in that area, I'm not sure if that would be over the
Yeah.
Falcons. I'm just not sure how that makes sense. The Falcons playing a dome. So
real quick on the Najee thing, that just reminded me about first round running backs. This year is going to be like the first year since like I was listening. It was like 2014 that a running back won't be taken in the first round. You got Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, kid from Michigan. I forget his name.
yeah,
I know a lot of people like him.
you're underestimating Harbaugh there. So
What do you mean? How so?
well, he's going to take Brock Bowers at 5, and he's going to trade back in and take Corum. That's guarantee it.
Oh, no way.
Come on,
There's
bro.
just no
He
shot.
wants
Okay, listen.
Blake Corum.
I can see not in the first.
Blake Corum and Austin Eckler is an
my
amazing
God,
pair.
bro. They're
And
not
they
even
don't-
going to re-sign Austin Eckler.
They have to. They can't sign a running back because they're negative $973 million in the salary cap. Harbaugh's crazy, bro. They do wild stuff.
I don't. Fuck the
Listen.
running back. I don't really even care about the running back. Look, I can take and live with Brock Bowers at 5. I can live with it, and I think it's fine. I think he's going to slide a little bit because I think that people are going to realize that he's not 6'4" and he doesn't weigh as much as he actually does. And people love the measurables. They slide up and down, when they get weighed at the combine in their pro days and whatnot. So, but I can live with it, but I'm not. There's not a running back going in the first round. There's no shot, dude.
Jonathan Brooks and Blake Corum are 3rd round picks. So
yeah. I think that's where the conversation. I think that's where the conversation starts. Is the early 3rd. Absolutely.
Especially, we saw it again this year. You take Bijan hella high, and he doesn't do anything all season. And a lot of that's on the head coach, but it just is what it is. Like, you're getting so much production. The Rams got a running back that comes out of nowhere. You're getting so much production later in the draft. Puka Nacua. You don't need to take that in the first round unless it's Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin, just demolishing everybody, power runner. If it's
who looks like a running back, who looks
Derrick
like a one.
Henry, Christian McCaffrey coming out of Stanford, where you're like, oh man, this is a 1,000 candidate. If you're getting that type of player, then he's a first round pick. But we're really going to start segueing away from that because the colleges are doing it too. The running back by committee, it's just. There's not even a ton of 5-star heavily recruited running backs in college right now. So,
right,
you're right. There's definitely not going to be unless Harbaugh goes Yazy.
All right,
the Chargers have always been my second favorite team because my dad is a Chargers fan. So the fact that they got Harbaugh and they got Greg Roman and everything over there, I'm a big time Chargers fan next year. So. And we know if the Chargers go to the Super Bowl, the 49ers can beat them. So. That's what I'm rooting for.
Damn, crazy. I'm going to go ahead and send this to your dad. I'm going to clip it at 108. Be like, hey,
he watched that Super Bowl. I think it was like 56-3 or something.
Yeah.
So, Steve Young got the monkey off his back. Hopefully Kyle Shanahan get the monkey off of his.